Dawn slid into the kitchen like a shy visitor, washing the tiled floor in pale light. Maya stood by the window, the hem of her robe brushing warm ankles, watching the jacaranda sway above the fence. Lagos had a way of whispering awake, distant horns, a rooster 2 compounds over, the soft clatter of a neighbor's gate. "Sit," Chike said gently. "I'll handle breakfast today." Maya turned, smiling. He was in a slate blue t-shirt that hugged his shoulders, wedding band glinting as he reached for the French press. On good mornings, Chike was patient, careful, almost reverent with details. It was one of the reasons she'd fallen for him. He noticed little things. How she liked her coffee. The plate she always reached for first, the one with the hairline crack like a lightning bolt. "I'm not helpless, you know," she teased, still moving toward him. "I've been making my own coffee since you were 9 and living with Grandma Ife," he finished, dimpling. "I remember. Sit. I insist." Ngozi, their maid, slipped in with a murmured good morning and a basket of garden eggs. Chike waved her off kindly. "I've got breakfast. Please sweep the veranda, the leaves are back again." Maya leaned on the counter, watching. Chike rinsed the press, measured out grounds, let hot water fall in a dark stream. He hummed an old Sunny Aid tune, off-key, charming. When he reached for the sugar jar, his hand hovered a fraction too long. It was nothing. It was everything. He glanced at Maya and found her looking right at him. He blinked, then smiled wider. "You're watching me like I'm a cooking show," he said. "You look good in my kitchen," Maya answered, kissing his shoulder as she passed. Her stomach fluttered, light as tissue. She told herself it was love. From the dining room, the clock ticked with the careful arrogance of a metronome. Maya set the table. Her mind was already dancing ahead to the day, the foundation board call at noon, the vendor she needed to chase about the vocational center's tiles. She had plans. She had a life so full it spilled. Chike brought the tray. The smell lifted, bold, rich. He set her favorite mug down, white with a fading gold rim. "For Madam Chair," he said with a mock bow. They laughed. They always laughed in the mornings. "Thank you," she whispered, wrapping both hands around the warmth. Chike watched the steam ribbon upward, watched her face soften. For a second, his eyes cooled, an eclipse behind a smile, then warmed again, like nothing had ever changed. He raised his own cup. "To another day," he said. "To another day," Maya echoed, and brought the rim to her lips. Outside, the jacaranda stirred. In the hall, the clock counted. In the kitchen, something small and invisible shifted the air. The first sip was everything she loved, bold with a whisper of sweetness, the citrus tang she swore came from the water in their borehole and nowhere else on earth. She swallowed and felt heat puddle pleasantly in her chest. Then, half a minute later, a thin wave of dizziness tilted the room. Maya gripped the mug tighter, blinking at the table runner until it steadied. "Whoa!" Chike's chair scraped. "What is it?" "Just stood up too fast." She forced a laugh. "I'm fine. I didn't even stand up." The laugh frayed midair. Another ripple of lightheadedness chased itself through her skull like a child with muddy feet. Chike was already at her side. "Maya." His voice arrived softened, cotton-wrapped, too tender. "You haven't been sleeping." "I slept," she said. Her tongue felt slightly thick, as if she'd bitten it in the night. "I slept enough. Don't be a hero." He steadied her elbow. "Drink some water." Ngozi paused in the doorway, broom angled against her hip. "Madam." "I'm all right," Maya said quickly. She didn't want Ngozi's worry. She didn't want Chike's, truthfully. She wanted the day to obey her list. She stood. The room pinwheeled, once, twice, then clicked back. Pride was a stubborn dog. She wouldn't let it drag her. "I'll shower. The board call starts at noon." She sipped again, smaller this time, then caught herself and set the cup down. A faint metallic echo lingered beneath the coffee. Not unpleasant, exactly. Simply, odd. Maybe the new bag of beans. Maybe nothing. "Leave the calls," Chike said. "Delegate. You don't have to rescue the whole world in 1 week." She smiled, tied around the edges. "I like rescuing." And I like you breathing, he said, a playful warning that didn't reach his eyes. Take a day. In the shower, she pressed her forehead to cool tile and breathing became an exercise she had to remember. Pinpricks danced under her skin. By the time she dressed, in a flowing lemon blouse and dark slacks, her legs felt like they belonged to a woman who'd run a race in a dream. Chaik met her at the doorway with a hand at the small of her back. You're pale. I'm brown, she said, wry. I don't do pale. He chuckled. You do a very dignified version of it. He brushed a crumb from her shoulder that wasn't there, then kissed her temple as if anointing her. Call me if you need anything. As she left, she passed the dining table again. Her mug sat there, a half moon of coffee cooling inside. She reached for it, then paused. The metallic hint flickered at the back of her mind. She looked at Chaik, at his open face. He lifted a hand. I'll clear it, he offered. Thank you, she said, and the words felt heavier than they should. When the front door closed behind her, Ngozi glanced at the mug. In the kitchen, the tap ran, then stopped. Chaik's voice, light and ordinary, I'll do it. A soft clink of porcelain. The briefest clatter of the sink. Then silence. By midday, the dizziness had ebbed. Maya chalked it up to stress, to a skipped dinner the night before, to the Lagos heat that could sometimes bend your bones. She led the board call with her usual steadiness, took notes in her small hardback journal. If she noticed that her handwriting tilted more than usual, she didn't mention it. At 3 p.m., an old number flashed on her phone. She almost didn't pick up. Namdi, she said, surprised into a smile. Madam Maya of Ikoyi, a deep voice teased. Am I still allowed to call you that, or does the title now require a petition to the foundation? She laughed for real then, warmth rushing through her that had nothing to do with coffee. Come and try me. Where are you? Back in town. 2 weeks. Thought I'd pay homage to royalty. Come for dinner, she said impulsively. Tonight. Say less, he replied. I'll bring wine and ancient gossip. When she ended the call, she felt steadier. There were anchors in the world. People who knew your childhood laughter, the first time you beat the fastest boy at spelling, the day you wore your father's oversized watch and swore it made you smarter. Anchors mattered. Still, when she walked past a cafe on a wallow road and the aroma lifted, she felt her stomach twist. Odd, she thought again, and kept walking. The weakness didn't arrive like thunder. It seeped. It made a home under her ribs and waited there like a cat. Some mornings she woke feeling like herself, and then, around the second cup of coffee, a fog slid in, and she moved through the day as if wading. Chaik began to anticipate it. He was up before her most mornings now, already padding back from the kitchen with a tray. You spoil me, she murmured. Honor where honor is due, he said. Drink. You'll need your strength. He started doing small things he'd never bothered with, charging her phone at night, laying out supplements like a nurse, reminding her about her scarf if the evening cooled. If Maya were keeping score, love would look like this, 1,000 unglamorous tasks done with quiet competence. If she were keeping score, she would also note the way he always picked up her cup himself, always washed it himself, methodically, like a ritual. One afternoon at the foundation site, as workers measured an inner courtyard for the new vocational center, Maya stood at the center of the dust and realized she couldn't feel her fingertips. She flexed them, 1, 2, 3, and the tingling stayed. Ma? Asked Sade, the project manager, eyes flaring. You need shade. I'm fine, Maya said, but her voice lacked its usual iron. Sade steered her anyway, and she didn't fight. She sat, breathing, watching mason lines quiver in the heat. For the first time, she said softly, I understand why people give up. Sade studied her a second. I don't think you know how to give up, Ma. At home, Chaik listened, face a portrait of concern. He wrapped an arm around her shoulders. You've been carrying too much, he said into her hair. Let me carry some. Let me carry you. Ngozi arrived with their evening soup and paused at the threshold. Chaik, catching her eye, smiled benevolently. Thank you, Ngozi, he said. Madam needs all the help she can get. Ngozi murmured assent and retreated, but her gaze flicked briefly to the sink where a single white mug sat drying, its gold rim catching the fluorescence. She catalogued it the way women catalogue things for survival. That night, Maya woke sweating. Her heart hiccuped. A cramp twisted low in her belly. She turned and found Chaik already watching her, awake in the thin blue of the digital clock. "You were moaning," he said. His voice was gentle, but there was something avid beneath it, a hunter's focus. "Should I call the hospital?" She considered it. Images bobbed, waiting rooms with plastic chairs, the smell of antiseptic, nurses scurrying, hands competent, faces tired. "No," she whispered. "Let's see how I am in the morning." "Okay." He brushed hair off her forehead. His fingers were cool. "I'm here." He was there in the morning with the tray, the white mug. He was there when she swayed after the second sip. He was there when Gozi quietly opened a window to let air in because the room felt suddenly too small. And though Maya told herself it was stress, heat, life, she began to dream of water. Clean cold water pouring through her, washing away a taste she could never quite name. The rooftop lounge glittered. Lagos Island stretched below like a mosaic of lights and opportunity. Amora arrived late, on purpose. She wore a cream dress that skimmed her like the idea of a secret. When she smiled, men adjusted their chairs. When she frowned, waiters learned new speeds. "You look like money," she said, sliding into the booth opposite Chaik. He smiled tightly. "You always say that." "I always mean it." She took his hand momentarily, pressing her red thumb into his palm like a seal. "How is our project?" Chaik glanced around. In the dim, everyone looked like versions of themselves seen through old glass. He leaned in. "She's declining," he murmured. "The weakness is consistent now. She naps. She cancels meetings." "And the will?" Amora asked, voice like sugar ground too fine. "She never talks about it," he said. "I've been careful. I've suggested retiring to the country." She laughed. "But she trusts me more lately. Sick people do." Amora rolled her eyes. Sick wives and trusting fools built this city. She tapped the table twice. Her father tied the estate to her stable marriage, yes? That ridiculous clause. Chaik smirked, bitterness dark as coffee grounds. The great chief ease, he distrusted every man and adored his daughter. No divorce, or half the asset transfers to a family trust she can't touch. He thought that would keep predators away. "And here we are," Amora said softly, all glamour drained for a second, all truth naked. "At your mercy and her stubborn heart." Chaik swallowed. His jaw flexed. "I love you," he said, low. "You know that." She looked at him for a long moment. "I know you love the idea of me," she said, not unkindly. "I'm content with that. I'm also content with reality. When will this decline complete itself?" He hesitated. She watched him with patient calculation. Amora wasn't a monster. She was a woman who'd seen the softest people get cut. She had taught herself to pick up sharp things first. "Soon," he said at last. "Very soon." "Good," she said, and the word fell into the night, small and heavy. "Because I'm tired of meeting you like we're committing petty crimes. I want to be in your house in the morning, wearing your shirt, making coffee in that ridiculous white mug she loves." He flinched so imperceptibly it could have been a blink. A server appeared. Glasses clinked. Music thumped faintly through the floor. They sat shoulder to shoulder, conspirators in designer clothing, late to their own redemption. "Chaik," Amora said finally, her tone drifting toward something almost tender. "Don't delay until it gets messy." He nodded. It was not a plan. It was a promise to himself to be braver than his fear. And across town, in a quiet kitchen where the night hummed like a light bulb, a white mug dried on a rack, gold rim catching the smallest breath of moon. Namdi stepped into their sitting room with the smell of the evening rain on him. He had what Maya's grandmother used to call a healer's face. Warm eyes, a seriousness that didn't make you feel small. He'd grown broader in the shoulders, and there was a new groove between his brows she didn't remember from secondary school. "You look like you've been winning arguments with doctors," Maya said, hugging him. Her body felt restless with relief. Only the rude ones, he grinned. How are you, Madam Maya? She started to say fine, then sat instead. Strange, she admitted. Tired in a way that doesn't feel like tired. Chaik entered with easy charm, clasping hands, performing a friendship he hadn't earned. Dr. Namdi, he said. This one has talked about you like a myth. Please, help us bully her into resting. I'll try my best, Namdi said. He sat across from Maya, watching her with a physician's unhurried gaze that took in skin tone, breath cadence, the slight tremor at her wrist when she lifted a glass of water. Tell me everything, he said. She did, compressing weeks into minutes. The dizzy spells after breakfast, the random cramps, the odd metallic edge in her mouth sometimes that felt like foil. She didn't say coffee. She didn't know why she didn't say it, only that the word crowded her throat like a superstition. When do you feel best? He asked. Late afternoon, she said. Weirdly. I get this second wind. And worse. In the morning. The instant she said it, the shape of the thing sharpened, as if naming drew a chalk line around it. Namdi's eyes flickered to the sideboard where a white mug sat like a prop in a memory. Walk me through a morning, he said casually. Maya smiled wryly. Chaik spoils me. He brings coffee to bed. The man has changed, she added, with affection that softened every syllable. Chaik laughed, spreading his hands. Marriage is for sanctification, ABI. ABI, Namdi said, one corner of his mouth lifting. He stood. May I see your kitchen? I've been tasked by my mother to evaluate the interior design choices of my friends. She thinks my bachelor flat is an insult to God. Maya laughed. Go and critique the plates. Ngozi will be delighted. In the kitchen, he admired the backsplash, the spice rack, the neatness that always made Maya's life easier. Ngozi hovered like a guardian. Good evening, he said warmly. Good evening, sir, she responded, cautious but open. His gaze, pretending idleness, drifted over the sink. The white mug, gold rim dented in one spot you wouldn't notice unless you loved it, rested upside down. Beside it, a teaspoon with a faint stain the color of watered-down rust. He didn't touch anything. He only looked and tucked the look away. Back in the sitting room, he flexed his hands once, breath easing. Maya, he said lightly, I want to run a few basic tests. Humor me. You don't look like you, and that offends me personally. She lifted an eyebrow. Doctor's orders. Old friend's insistence. Chaik perched on the arm of her chair, an intimate shape. Whatever she needs, he said. It sounded generous. It sounded like someone practicing a speech he didn't fully believe yet. Namdi jotted something in his notebook, then looked up. One more thing. This is annoying advice, and I apologize in advance. For a few days, avoid anything routine. Change variables. If you always take your supplements in the morning, move them to night. If you always drink coffee first thing, try waiting till noon, or not at all. Let's see what shifts. There it was, said without weight, placed in the room like a spoon on a saucer. Maya swallowed. I love my mornings, she murmured. Coffee helps me be myself. Then we'll let you be someone else for a week, he said gently. Just to learn. Chaik's smile was almost too quick. Excellent idea. Namdi rose. I'll send for you tomorrow. We'll do the tests. No panic. No Google. Promise me that. I promise, Maya said, and for the first time in days, she felt a small sternness return to her chest, the sternness of a woman who once argued with a bank manager for 2 hours and left with a better loan. At the door, as Namdi hugged her goodnight, he lowered his voice. How safe do you feel? He asked, as if asking whether she needed a shawl. Maya thought of the tray in the mornings, the gold-rimmed cup, the way Chaik's concern sometimes arrived before her worry did. She thought of love as something that could turn into theater without warning. Safe, she said. And then, as if a second voice spoke through her, she added, mostly. Namdi's eyes acknowledged that complicated truth without prying it wider. Call me, he said. For anything. When he left, Chaik locked the door, turned, and gathered her into a hug that looked like comfort from the outside. I'm glad he came, he murmured into her hair. You need someone stubborn enough to argue with you. Maybe I do, she said, voice muffled. She pulled back and traced the line of his jaw with her thumb. Thank you for taking care of me. Always, he said, and the word landed between them with a weight that had nothing to do with devotion. Later, after she'd gone to bed with a book and slipped under quickly, Chaik stood in the kitchen with the white mug in his hands, turning it slowly like a planet he could control. He washed it once, twice, 3 times. The night was quiet enough to hear the soap slide. In her room at the back, Ngozi lay awake, eyes on the cracked ceiling, replaying Namdi's gentle question like a radio she couldn't turn off. How safe do you feel? She thought of the phone call she'd overheard last week, a man's laugh muted, a woman's voice saying, soon, and felt the hair on her arms rise. Morning would come. It always did. And with it, the ritual that felt like love, tasted like comfort, and carried something nameless hidden inside. Maya slept. In her dream, she reached for a cup and found a mirror instead. When she lifted it, it reflected a kitchen she knew and a woman she almost recognized. Tired, tender, turning toward the door as if she'd heard someone calling her back to herself. Morning came with harmattan light, thin and papery. Maya sat up slowly, recalling Namdi's advice like a rule written on her palm. Change the routine. She listened for footsteps. Right on cue, Chaik's soft tread approached, the tray clinked. Good morning, madam, he said, cheerful. The white mug steamed like a small altar. Maya smiled. Let's try something different today. He paused. Different. I'll eat first. Coffee later. She lifted the plate of papaw and toast, calm as a referee. A fraction of something crossed his face. Surprise, then calculation, then a practiced warmth. Of course, he said. I just thought it helps your mornings. It does, she said lightly, but Namdi wants me to shuffle things. He chuckled. Doctors and their experiments. She took a bite, slow. The air shifted. Chaik lingered a beat longer than necessary, then carried the white mug back to the kitchen, step measured. The sound of the tap came almost immediately, running, abruptly purposeful. After breakfast, Maya showered. In the mirror, the color had returned to her cheeks, a quiet rebellion her body had organized without permission. She tied a silk scarf, opened her dressing table drawer to reach for lip balm, and found an empty space where her small charger usually lived. She checked the bedside drawer, then Chaik's study. The door was ajar. The study always smelled faintly of cedar and paper. On his desk, everything sat square, disciplined. She glanced around, bookshelf, framed degree. Second drawer slightly open, as if hastily closed. Don't snoop. The thought arrived in her mother's voice. But another voice, hers, said, find your charger and leave. She pulled the drawer open. Files. A cufflink tin. A small, clear bottle with a dark cap, unmarked. It lay inside a black velvet pouch like a jewel that didn't want to be seen. Her throat tightened. She didn't touch it. She didn't have to. Every nerve in her body leaned toward it the way a plant leans toward light. She closed the drawer, pulse ticking at her wrist like a metronome. She stepped back, sat in his leather chair, and stared at the desk until her breathing learned how to behave. Then she stood and left the room with her charger, hands steady because she told them to be. In the corridor, the house felt aware, as though the walls had been listening the whole time and were deciding what to do with what they'd heard. At lunch, Chaik was sweetness poured into human shape. You look brighter, he said, reaching for her plate. See. Rearranging works. It does, she said. She heard her voice from a distance, like a radio in another room. Later, when he stepped out to take a call, Maya stood in the doorway of his study again. She didn't open the drawer. She didn't need to. The knowledge sat between her and the cedar-smelling air like a pane of glass. On her nightstand that evening, she placed her worn Bible, the one with her maiden name written in schoolgirl cursive. She pressed her palm to its cover and, unexpectedly, began to shake, not the delicate tremor of fatigue, but a deep, old quiver from somewhere under the floorboards of her life. Night wrapped the house in soft cloth. The generator hummed. A dog barked faintly 2 compounds over. Chaik slept on his side, breaths even, an actor resting between scenes. Maya lay on her back, eyes open to the ceiling, counting the small cracks in the paint she'd always meant to fix. Tears crept down her temples, hot, embarrassed to exist. God, she whispered into the quiet, only daring the one syllable. She didn't have a prayer more complex than that. She didn't want one. Memories arrived uninvited, Chaik's laughter on their wedding day when the ring got stuck, his palm on her back at her father's funeral, holding her up when grief turned her into smoke. Evenings they danced barefoot in the kitchen to a song that had no right to be as perfect as it was. People don't become strangers overnight, she told herself. They practice. She rolled onto her side, facing the faint outline of his shoulders. Chaik, she said softly, not to wake him, just to try his name on this new night air. It tasted different. Her phone buzzed on the dresser. A message from Namdi, remember, no routine. And rest. Tomorrow 10 a.m., Basic Labs. I'll pick you. She typed, okay, thank you. Then, after a long pause, do you ever misjudge people? The typing dots appeared, disappeared, returned. I'm a professional misjudger, he wrote. But I try to apologize quickly when I do. A laugh escaped her throat, an unexpected bubble. She pressed the Bible to her chest and let the tears come properly then, not the quiet, ashamed kind, but the honest ones that cleaned rooms inside you. The night received them. The pillow kept her secrets. Around 2 a.m., Chaik stirred. You awake? He asked, voice fogged. I'm fine, she said. He slid a hand to her waist. Come here. She let him draw her in. The intimacy felt like being held by a version of him that still existed in some other room. She closed her eyes and pretended to visit that room a while. Love, she realized, could be a bridge and a blindfold at the same time. Just before sleep claimed her, she made a promise to herself in a voice clearer than any prayer. I will not die confused. Ngozi had been in enough houses to know where the truth liked to hide. In kitchens, in laundry baskets, in the space between a man's face and his voice. That afternoon, she moved quietly, a small figure with a big biography, widowed at 24, wise by necessity. She'd already washed the white mug twice, turned it in her hands, studied the gold rim's tiny dent the way a mother memorizes a child's birthmark. As she dusted the corridor, Chaik's phone began to ring in the study. He shut the door, a soft click that sounded like an instruction. Ngozi's broom slowed. She didn't press her ear to the door, she wasn't a fool. But houses are conductors. Sound travels. Told you, Chaik's voice, lowered, threaded through the thin wood. She's adjusting things. The doctor came. A woman's voice, smooth, amused. Amora. So what? You said it's subtle. It is. He exhaled. It needs consistency. Then be consistent, Amora said. I'm tired of being a secret on rooftops. I want mornings. Ngozi's hands tightened on the broom. Mornings. We're close, Chaik said. Don't rush me. Rushing is for the poor, Amora murmured. We are not poor. Chaik's laugh flashed, brief, brittle. You're funny. I'm impatient, she corrected. A pause. And curious, does she still use the white mug? Ngozi stared at the mug on the rack through the kitchen doorway. She could see it without looking. Every day, Chaik said. It's her favorite. Ngozi put the broom down very gently. The call ended a minute later. Chaik came out wearing the face he showed the daylight. Ngozi, he said kindly, please bring fruit to the sitting room. Yes, sir, she replied, eyes lowered. She moved to the kitchen with deliberate simplicity. Her mind, however, was busy. She didn't like assumptions. She liked evidence. She also liked Madame Maya, who greeted her properly every morning and never treated her like furniture. Ngozi peeled the mango with quick hands, sliced it into a neat fan. As she placed the tray on the counter, the small clear bottle in the black pouch flashed across her mind like lightning without thunder. She hadn't seen it, but she didn't need to. She'd seen enough versions of it in other houses to know its outline. She made a decision that felt like stepping onto a bridge and hoping it would hold. She would watch. Quietly. Carefully. And if watching wasn't enough, she would act. Before she left the kitchen, she took the white mug and set it on a separate rack, upside down, a small island apart from the other dishes. Then she dried her hands and carried the fruit in, smile modest, eyes open. The next morning, Maya woke before Chaik. Dawn made a pale ribbon at the curtains. She lay very still, listening to the house arrange itself. Water in the pipes, a gecko tapping somewhere like a tiny drummer. When Chaik rose, she watched him gather the tray, the way his movements followed muscle memory. He kissed her forehead. "My queen," he teased. She smiled. "Let me come to the table today." At breakfast, he set the white mug by her place. The steam curled, persuasive. Maya lifted it, brought it to her mouth, and let the rim just touch her lower lip the way an actor lets a glass touch in a stage play. She inhaled. The rich aroma did its old soft shoe in her chest. She tilted the mug, letting the surface kiss the edge, then set it down. "Hot?" Chaik asked casually, watching the mug the way a gambler watches a coin flip. "Very." She buttered toast, chewed, chatted about the foundation's contractor bids. When he glanced down at his phone, she edged the mug toward the table's plant, her grandmother's hardy lily, and tilted a whisper of liquid into the soil. The plant drank without complaint. She returned the mug to its exact position, angle of handle unchanged. Years of living with a meticulous man had made her a meticulous woman. Chaik looked up. "Drink before it cools," he said, too lightly. "I will," she smiled. She repeated the dance twice more, each time when his attention skated just far enough away, to a message, to the news scroll, to a thought. She kept her voice soft, bright, normal. By mid-morning, she felt normal. Not floating. Not sliding. Steady, like a metronome set to a human beat. It startled her how quickly her body rejoiced in the absence of fog. She wanted to run down the street and shout, "I can feel my fingers." Instead, she sent a single cherry emoji to Namdi. He replied with a check mark and a question mark. She sent back a coffee cup and a no entry sign. He replied, "Understood. Keep observing." Around noon, Chaik popped into the kitchen. Ngozi, drying spoons, watched him with the peripheral attention of someone cleaning the surface while reading the room beneath it. "How's madam?" he asked. "Better today," Ngozi said. "She is laughing." He smiled tightly. "Good. Maybe she needs a second cup." He reached for the mug on the rack, the white one on its small island, then paused, as if remembering something. He chose a blue mug instead. Ngozi noted the hesitation, filed it. He poured, stirred. When he left, she looked at the white mug and felt the hair on her arms lift as if a window had blown open. Back at the table, Chaik set the blue mug down. "Since yours was too hot earlier," he said, cheerful. "Try this." Maya lifted it, sipped, then coughed delicately. "I think I'm done with coffee today," she said, apologetic. "My stomach." "A beat." "No problem," he said, withdrawing the mug with a grace that felt rehearsed. "Tea." "Water." All afternoon, Maya kept herself moving. She watered the balcony bougainvillea, answered emails, laughed too loudly at a silly video Sade sent. She watched Chaik watch her, his eyes searching for a slump that didn't arrive, his smile glitching when it didn't. By evening, he was solicitous, suggesting an early night. "You've had a good day," he said. "Don't overdo it." She kissed his cheek. "I won't." At 9 p.m., when he went out for fuel, a plausible errand in Lagos, Maya walked into his study with the quiet of a person entering a church. She opened the second drawer. The black pouch lay there, neat as a habit. She didn't touch it. She only held its presence in the room with her, like a third person. "Enough," she whispered to the empty air. "I see you." She closed the drawer and, for the first time in weeks, felt taller inside her own body. Namdi arrived just past 10, as promised, in a button-down that refused to wrinkle and a face that made people tell the truth. They drew blood at his clinic, took vitals, ran the standard panels. He didn't let his eyes say anything dramatic or reassuring. He let them say present. On the way back, he stopped by a quiet roadside stall and bought suya, because life had to contain ordinary mercy. "You're steadier," he observed as they sat in her car, Windows cracked to let in the peppered air. "I'm here," she said, surprised to hear the bright thread in her own voice. "Good." He passed her a toothpick. "Homework." She arched a brow. "Doctor homework." "Friend homework," he said. "Write everything down. Dates. Symptoms. Anything that felt off. The mug. The drawer." Her head snapped. "What drawer?" He held her gaze. "I see more than I say, Maya. You don't have to confirm anything yet. Just write. If I'm wrong, we'll laugh at my paranoia over Jollof." She exhaled, half laughing despite herself. "You're annoyingly right, you know." "I try. And, put that writing somewhere sacred. Somewhere only you know." By evening, the sky peeled itself back to reveal a clean orange underlayer. Maya sat at the dining table with her journal, the Bible beside it. She dated the page and began. "If I don't finish this season with my own mouth, let this paper speak for me." Her pen moved, finding a rhythm like walking. Day 1, dizziness 20 minutes post-breakfast. Day 4, metallic taste. Day 9, cramp at 2 a.m. Day 13, improved when breakfast delayed. Day 14, white mug always present, Chaik washes it himself. Day 15, found unmarked small bottle in his study drawer, second from top, left side, inside black pouch. Did not touch. Day 16, overheard him on call, a woman asked about mornings and the white mug. Ngozi present in house. She paused, swiped tears with the heel of her hand, then continued. "If you are reading this, it means I have failed to complete the conversation I started with God. But listen, I was not careless. I loved a man and believed him. I will not die confused. If I collapse, ask for the kitchen. Ask for the mug. Ask for the drawer. Ask Ngozi what she heard." The house was quiet enough to hear the refrigerator hum. She lifted the Bible, flipped past the brittle family register, and stopped at Psalm 27. "The Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear?" She slid the letter in, flattened the page gently, then tucked a dried hibiscus petal on top as a marker no one else would understand. Footsteps approached. She closed the Bible and stood, composing her face the way women have done for centuries before walking into rooms that might not love them. Chaik entered with that pleasant, practiced smile. "How's my queen?" "Writing," she said, holding up the journal. "Namdi's orders." "Ah, obey your doctor." He kissed her forehead. "I made tea." He set a cup down, chamomile, fragrant. "No coffee tonight." Perhaps strategy had changed, perhaps patience had learned a new shape. "Thank you," she said, and didn't drink. They sat together, an ordinary couple in an ordinary living room. On the shelf behind Maya, the Bible looked like any other book sharing a quiet evening with its owner. Inside it, her handwriting glowed like a coal. Later, when the house slept, Ngozi tiptoed to the sitting room to pick a cloth she'd forgotten. Her eyes landed on the Bible. She didn't touch it. But something in her face softened, as if the sight of the old, familiar cover reassured her that the world still had boundaries and names. Back in her room, Maya lay awake, listening to Chaik breathe. She envisioned the letter in the book, how paper can carry a voice, how ink can turn a woman's suspicion into a shape other people can hold. Tomorrow, she told herself. We move the pieces again. And somewhere in the city, under a roof where promises looked like prizes, a woman named Amora checked a calendar app and smiled at a date she had circled in red, not knowing that the board was shifting beneath her manicure. The gatekeeper called just after noon. "Madam, a visitor. She say her name is Amora." Maya felt the name like a coin drop inside her chest. The day was bright. The living room smelled of Polish and mango. She could have said send her away. Instead, she adjusted her scarf and said, "Let her in." Amora entered with the confidence of a woman who always got the last slice. She wore white, the kind of white that dares dirt, and a perfume that declared itself long before she did. Her eyes swept the room, cataloguing. When they reached the Bible on the shelf, they lingered. Then she smiled as if she'd discovered a souvenir. "You look delicate," she said, taking a seat uninvited. "Are you well?" "I'm alive," Maya replied, hands folded loosely. "May I offer you water?" Don't trouble yourself. Amora crossed her legs, a swift blade of motion. I wanted to meet the woman who made a man like Chike believe in forever. Maya tilted her head. And how is forever these days? Amora's smile sharpened. Elastic. She leaned forward, voice lowering. You must know by now that your husband is distracted. It happens. Men get bored. Life is long. Maya studied her without blinking. What do you want from me, Amora? The truth between women, Amora said, as if offering a gift. I like mornings. I like shirts that are not mine but smell like someone I've chosen. I'm tired of pretending I'm a rumor. So you came to audition for a promotion? Maya asked quietly. Amora's laughter was soft and cinematic. I came to say, don't make this harder than it needs to be. You are tired. He is restless. And love, if that's what you still call it, has turned into paperwork. For a second, the room tilted. Not from poison. Maya had poured her coffee into a potted lily again, but from the smoothness of Amora's cruelty. There was an artistry to it. She recognized a professional. My marriage is not your project, Maya said, voice even. It's already my project. Amora stood, smoothing her flawless white. And soon, my home. She took a step, then paused as if struck by a generous thought. A free tip, from one woman to another, mornings matter. Ngozi, standing in the doorway with a tray she did not need to carry, didn't move. Her face was courteous. Her eyes were a library. When the door closed behind Amora, silence swelled. Maya exhaled. Her palms had tiny crescents where her nails had pressed. She looked at Ngozi. You heard? Yes, madam. And you've heard other things, Maya added, carefully. Ngozi set the tray down. I am a quiet person, Ma, she said. But the house is not always quiet. Maya's eyes stung. Tell me what it told you. In the kitchen, neutral ground, stainless steel, bright light. Ngozi spoke with the care of a woman balancing a bowl filled to the brim. The day the doctor came, she began. Ogre called a woman from the study. He spoke low. She asked about mornings. She asked about the white mug. Maya's hand tightened around the back of a chair. You're sure? I know that mug. A small smile ghosted. I wash it every day. Maya nodded once, as if receiving a diagnosis she had privately already lived with. What else? Ngozi hesitated just long enough to be respectful. He always takes your cup to the kitchen himself. He rinses it fast. He washes the spoon twice. He keeps one bottle in the second drawer of his study, inside a black pouch. I have not touched it, she added quickly. I'm just seeing. Maya swallowed. She tried to speak. The first attempt came out as air. Thank you, she said finally. For telling me. For watching. Ngozi's chin lifted a fraction. I like truth tidy. And I like you alive. The sentence landed with a quiet thud of loyalty. For the first time in weeks, Maya laughed without shards in it. I like me alive, too. They stood in a small pocket of uncomplicated alliance. Then Maya reached for her phone and typed a message. Namdi, can you test a liquid for me, today? He responded almost immediately. Bring a sample. Discreetly. How do we take it? Maya asked, turning the problem like a key in a lock. Ngozi's eyes flicked to the cupboard. Leave the mug to me, she said. You only need to pretend. Maya nodded, a little dizzy now for real, dizzy with the relief of action. Then we pretend better than anyone. The next morning, the ritual played. Chike's voice soft. The tray. The white mug. The practiced concern. Eat first. He offered, light. Drink first, Maya said instead, lifting the cup just enough to satisfy the choreography. Steam warmed her face. She tipped the smallest, invisible measure into her mouth, held it, then turned to dab at her lips with a napkin. The liquid slipped into the napkin's corner. She tucked it under her plate. A minute later, when he looked down at the news scroll, she tipped a thin ribbon of coffee into a small travel vial she'd hidden inside her robe pocket. Hands steady. Heart refusing to misbehave. Chaik's gaze returned. How is it? Perfect, she said, and it was the most useful lie she'd ever told. By 11, Namdi had the vial in a brown envelope, his expression professionally plain. I can do preliminary screens here, he said. If we need to escalate to a reference lab, we will. No police. Not yet. Do you understand me? I understand, Maya said, though the word police opened a trapdoor to a future she didn't want to picture yet. And Namdi, if I'm wrong. Then we'll eat puff puff and laugh at my paranoia again, he said gently. Go home. Be normal. Normal. She drove the long way back, along streets where Okodas flashed like fish in a current and children in yellow uniforms played football with a bottle. Lagos moved with its usual stubborn life. She let it tutor her in the art of continuing. At dusk, her phone buzzed. Namdi, trace positive for a sedative compound on preliminary immunoassay. Not a vitamin. Not stress. I'm moving it to confirmatory testing first thing in the morning. Keep acting. Do not confront. Record what you can. The message remained on her screen like a second heartbeat. She read it again, then locked the phone and set it face down. That night, at the table, Chaik was luminous. He joked. He massaged her shoulders. He asked about the tiles for the vocational center and made an insightful comment about slip resistance he wouldn't have known to make last month. Thank you, she said, and she could almost see herself from the ceiling. This woman making a calm shape with her mouth while holding a quiet hurricane inside. When he went to shower, she opened her Bible to Psalm 27, read her own handwriting, and added a line. Day 18, preliminary test positive for sedative trace in coffee sample. She underlined trace positive twice. She closed the book and ran a hand over the cover as if blessing a sleeping child. In her room, Ngozi unscrewed the faceplate of a smoke detector she'd bought that afternoon at a hardware stall. It wasn't a smoke detector. It was a small, motion-activated camera with a memory card tucked inside. She held it for a moment, crossed herself the way her mother had taught her, and then screwed it back together. Tomorrow, she whispered to the empty kitchen. You will show your face. Morning arrived as if nothing important had decided to happen. Chaik placed the white mug down. Careful, he said. It's very hot. Maya let her hand tremble, not from fear, but rehearsal. She lifted, sipped a performance, set it down, and began talking about the Foundation's volunteer drive in a bright, efficient voice. 5 minutes. 10. She let her shoulder droop. 15. She pressed a hand to her temple. I feel strange, she said, allowing a thin whine to smuggle itself into her tone. Chaik was at her side immediately, pupils tensing, like a man hearing the opening notes of his favorite song. Strange how? Light, she whispered. Like my bones are balloons. He guided her, too eagerly, toward the sofa. Lie down, he said, already reaching for his phone with the other hand. She lay back, eyes half-lidded. Her breath shortened, measured. She loosened her jaw to let it slacken a fraction. Acting felt obscene and necessary at once. Chaik stepped into the corridor and dialed with speed. She didn't need to strain to hear. The house did the work. It's happening, he hissed. Today. A pause. Amora's voice, electric. Finally. Don't come here, Chaik said, surprisingly firm. Not yet. We follow the plan. Emergency call at noon. She's too weak to argue. I'll take her in. We'll monitor. And afterward? Amora asked. Silence in which 1,000 futures arranged themselves like cards. Afterward, he said, voice flattening into fate, we begin. He returned, face a tapestry of concern. I'm calling Namdi, he announced loudly. You need a doctor. Please, Maya whispered, playing the part so well it scared her. When he left the room again, she allowed her eyes to open fully. Her gaze met Ngozi's in the hallway mirror, an accidental angle that gave them each bravery. Ngozi's nod was infinitesimal and fierce. By noon, Namdi arrived with a medical bag, performance of urgency, and eyes that whispered I am here, keep acting. He checked her vitals, fussed professionally, then turned to Chaik. Her pressure's low. We'll take her in for observation. I'll drive, Chaik said. No need, Namdi replied smoothly. We have a driver downstairs. He met Maya's eyes for the briefest fraction, a code passing between old friends. Everything is proceeding. Hold. As they left, Chaik locked the front door, a tiny click that always sounded like control. In the clinic, Namdi placed Maya in a quiet room, hung a liter of saline, and only when the door clicked shut did he let his face show what his voice could not. Your act was Oscar-worthy, he said softly. Confirmatory results will come by tomorrow morning. If it's what I suspect, we'll have a name for the compound. A name, she repeated, as if a word could give shape to the ghost that had been haunting her kitchen. What next? We get him on camera, Namdi said. Then we decide how to light the match. Back at the house, Ngozi climbed a stool, adjusted the smoke detector, and made a small, nervous joke to the empty air. Showtime. When Maya returned late afternoon, steadier thanks to fluids, a quiet meal, and the gallows humor of Namdi's nurses, Chaik fussed handsomely. He took her bag, eased off her shoes, pressed a cool cloth to her neck as if his palms were altars. Rest, he cooed. I will make dinner. And in the morning, your coffee will be gentle. Thank you, she said, laying composure over disgust like a napkin on a stain. At dawn, the house was very still. Ngozi stood in the kitchen, wiping an already clean counter. The smoke detector watched from a high corner, patient. Chaik entered in his slate blue t-shirt, hum on his lips. He rinsed the French press, measured grounds, boiled water. He moved like a man in a movie he'd written himself. Then came the moment. He closed the kitchen door halfway. He opened the second drawer of the study from the kitchen side, an odd contortion he'd practiced to keep his body blocking the line of sight from the corridor, and removed the black velvet pouch. He opened it, took out the small clear bottle with the dark cap. He glanced toward the doorway. Seeing no one, he tilted a measured drop into the white mug. Stirred. Stirred again. A third stir, quick and ritualistic. In the corner, the camera's tiny light, so small it was almost imaginary, blinked once as if winking at the truth. Ngozi didn't breathe. She didn't move. She counted stirrings. She counted heartbeats. She let the house memorize him. Chaik slipped the bottle back into the pouch, into the drawer, closed it carefully, then carried the tray out with the benevolence of a saint in a painting. Good morning, my love, he said as he entered the bedroom. Morning, Maya replied, and for the first time, there was steel under the silk. He set the mug down. She let her fingers curve around it the way you hold a snake you plan to show to a roomful of people. I dreamt of you, he said, too light. I dreamt of truth, she answered. He blinked, then smiled, unbothered. Same thing. Minutes later, in the kitchen, Ngozi climbed the stool, removed the memory card with quiet hands, and tucked it into the seam of her wrapper. She paused, closed her eyes, and let gratitude move through her body like a cool wind. By mid-morning, Namdi had the file on his laptop. He watched in silence once, jaw locked, then again with professional detachment, noting the drawer, the pouch, the angle of the wrist, the number of stirs. Chain of custody, he murmured, more to himself than anyone. Time-stamped. Clear view of act. He exhaled. Maya, this is evidence. Not suspicion. Evidence. Her eyes filled and didn't spill. Good, she said. I want more. You're strong enough to confront now, Namdi said carefully. But if we wait one more day, just one, we'll also have the lab confirmation with a compound name. And then when we set this in motion, it won't just be dramatic. It will be irreversible. Maya nodded. Patience tasted like metal and victory at once. Tomorrow, she said. We end the rehearsal. That evening, Chaik ordered suya from their favorite stand and insisted on a movie. He laughed in the right places. He squeezed her hand. He was a masterpiece of a mask. Maya watched him the way you watch a bridge you're about to burn, memorizing every plank, every nail, so that when the flames came tomorrow, she would not grieve the wood. She would only watch the ratlins of smoke draw new maps in the air. Before bed, she opened her Bible, slid out the letter, and added a final line to the day's entry. Day 19, camera recorded act. Bottle pouch drawer. 3 stirs. Tomorrow, light. She returned the letter to Psalm 27, closed the cover, and placed the book on the table where the morning sun would find it, a small square of certainty in a house full of beautiful lies. The test result arrived at 7:41 a.m. Namdi didn't bother with preamble. Confirmatory is back, he said, voice steady. It's a controlled sedative. The levels in your sample are small but consistent with repeated exposure. This is not stress. It's not vitamins. Maya stood at the bedroom window, the compound awake below, gate clangs, a hawker's bell, the jacaranda swaying as if it knew secrets. Thank you, she said. Her throat tried to close. She didn't let it. Keep the paperwork tight. Tighter than a drum, Namdi replied. When you move, move clean. I'm 5 minutes away if you need me. She ended the call and turned. Chaik came in with the tray, smile polished to ceremony. The white mug steamed. Good morning, my heart, he said. Set it there, Maya answered, pointing to the dresser instead of the bedside table, an infinitesimal shift that made the room feel newly mapped. He obeyed. Blink once too slow. You're up early. Couldn't sleep. She tied her scarf, smooth, deliberate. I was thinking about how quickly routines become cages. He chuckled. Spoken like a poet. Eat first, the coffee will wait. Leave it, she said. I'm done with coffee. He recovered in a heartbeat. Tea then. Leave it, she repeated, and the authority in her tone surprised even her. They met again in the kitchen, the place where the house kept score. She touched the smoke detector lightly as she passed. Thank you, and took a seat. Chaik leaned against the counter, performing casual. We should tell the family we're considering a break to the country, he ventured. You need rest. We should tell the family something, she agreed. At 5 o'clock. Everyone. Your mother's brother. My aunties. Kelechi. His eyes flickered. Why? Because I'm done telling the truth alone. He laughed. The sound had no mirth. Maya, what are we doing? We are ending a performance. She set her Bible on the counter next to the white mug. I know about the bottle in your drawer. I know about the calls. I know about the mornings. And I know what's in that cup. For a moment, his face emptied, no mask, no charm, a man mid-fall. Then the smile returned. Brittle. This is insane. You need rest. I needed evidence, she said, calm. Now I have it. From a lab. From a camera. From a housemaid who hears the things your voice says when your face is turned away. He stared, then gave the smallest shake of his head, admiration and disdain braided. You really think you can blow up your own home and walk away with your father's money clapping for you? Her eyes didn't move. I think you tried to make my home a grave. Money is the least interesting part of this story. You don't understand, he hissed, stepping close enough for his cologne to turn the air sharp. After your father died, the clause strangled me, half the estate locked unless the marriage stayed stable. I built this life with you, and all I got were boardrooms where they smiled at you over my head. I was suffocating. You tried to solve suffocation by taking my breath, she said. That's not a strategy. That's murder rehearsals. Silence widened. He looked at the mug, at the Bible, at the woman who no longer trembled. If you go to the police. I'm inviting the family, she said. 5 o'clock. Come. Or I walk into the station at noon. His jaw knotted. You're not the only one who can play audience. True, she said, sliding her Bible into her tote. But I'm the only one who can play the truth. She left him in the kitchen with the white mug cooling beside a book that had decided it would no longer be furniture. Kelechi arrived before noon, nervous energy packed into his frame. He hugged Maya too long, like a man clinging to a pier post in rough water. I should have come earlier, he blurted. I should have done more. What do you know? Maya asked, without bow or blade. He swallowed. 2 months ago I saw a pouch in Chaik's gym bag. I thought it was cologne. Then I overheard him on the phone with, I think Amora, saying, drops, mornings. I confronted him. He said if I ever repeated nonsense, He'd cut me off and tell the family I was stealing from the business. I was already in his debt from that stupid crypto mess and, he grimaced, shame flushing his face. I kept quiet. Maya watched him, expression unreadable. Why now? Because you look like our mother when she decided to leave Dad shouting and start tailor work, he said simply. Like you've already chosen life. And because I found things. He pulled out his phone, hands shaking. Voice notes. Chats. Bank transfers. He paid a consultant in little chunks. I followed the account. It links back to a boutique where Amora is a director. He held the phone as if it were a live wire. Maya scrolled. Dates, amounts, voice clips with that unmistakable half-laugh. He had done real homework. This will help, she said. I'll testify, he added, eyes watering. I'll say I failed you first and then I tried to stop the bleeding. I don't care what my mother says. She can disown me if she wants. Maya touched his shoulder, an absolution without words. You believed the wrong person for too long. Today, believe yourself. He nodded, exhaling a breath he might have been holding for months. What happens at 5? I show them the mirror, she said. They will decide what they are seeing. As he turned to go, he paused. Maya. I didn't only keep quiet out of fear. He forced himself to finish. I envied you. The way people respect you. The way a room turns toward you. I hated that my big brother seemed small next to you. Chaik made himself small, she replied softly. Respect isn't a ladder. It's a light. Stand in it. He nodded again, tears bright, and left, shoulders squarer. In the afternoon, the house smelled of polish and rain. Ngozi ironed quietly, listening to preparations roll in like distant thunder. Chairs dragged to the sitting room, drinks chilling, phone calls answered with a tight, polite tone. She caught Maya's eye. They exchanged a look that said finish it. At 4:57 p.m., the gate opened for the last set of headlights. They came because invitations from Maya were never casual. Auntie Kairu with her jewel like a crown. Uncle Uzo with his thoughtful scowl. Chaik's mother's brother, stern, the family accountant in his head even at parties. Cousins whispering, a murmur of perfume and judgment. Kelechi sat near the back, fists clenched on his knees. Chaik stood by the sideboard, handsome as a campaign poster, fingers tapping a glass at some private tempo. Thank you for coming, Maya began, voice carrying the way truth sometimes does without a microphone. I called you because families deserve facts, not rumors. She nodded to Ngozi. Lights dimmed. The TV woke. The video began. There was the kitchen, innocent as a church. There was the man they all knew, moving like water, opening a drawer, lifting a pouch, uncapping a small bottle. Tilt. Stir. 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 Auntie Kairu's hand flew to her mouth. Someone whispered Chinik. Kelechi closed his eyes as if absorbing a blow. The room filled with a breath that no one quite released. The video ended. Maya let the silence stand long enough to have a backbone. This is not an accident, she said, even. The lab has confirmed what that bottle holds. My doctor is here. My written record is here. She held up the Bible, sliding out the letter like a ribbon. If love is the truth, then this, she tapped the pages, is mine. Chaik moved, smooth with indignation. This is absurd. Edited video. A housemaid's gossip. A doctor who is your childhood friend. Do you hear yourselves? Then explain the bottle, Uncle Uzo said, voice gravel. Explain the stirring. Explain why you always wash that mug like it is your sins you are scrubbing. It's vitamins, Chaik snapped. A supplement. She asked me to help. She's been exhausted, she needed rest, Maya finished. Yes. Not a tranquilizer in a marriage cup. Kelechi stood, voice shaking. I have voice notes, he said into the room. Bank transfers. Messages with Amora. I failed her by keeping quiet. I won't fail now. He pressed send on a family group chat. Phones pinged around the room like small explosions. Screens lit with receipts and audio clips. Chaik's voice saying consistency, a woman saying mornings, a transfer memo labeled consulting. Chaik surged toward the TV. Enough. He grabbed for the laptop. Namdi, already at the edge of the room, stepped in, calm but immovable. Don't, the doctor said. Not loud, not soft. Final. You think you can ruin me? Chaik spat, a wildness breaking through the varnish. This family, this name, this city, do you know who I am? You are my husband, Maya said, voice so level it became a blade. And you put a poison in my cup. The gate buzzer sounded. The room froze. 2 officers entered, hats in hands, manner respectful to the hosts and indifferent to reputation. Good evening, the senior one said. We received a petition earlier today with supporting documentation. We'd like to invite Mr. Chaik to the station to assist with inquiries. Invite, Chaik sneered. Invite, the officer repeated. Or escort. For a heartbeat, Chaik looked at every face in the room and found no life vest. He looked at Maya and found a door he could no longer open. He looked at Kelechi and found a brother who had jumped to the other shore. He straightened his shirt. Let me get my shoes, he said. As he passed Maya, he paused. You think this ends me, he murmured, eyes suddenly tired. It ends you too. She met his gaze. It ends the lie. He nodded once, a soldier saluting the enemy he finally recognized, and walked out between the officers. At the far edge of the compound, a figure in cream watched from the shadows near a waiting car. Amora, jaw set, phone pressed to her ear. When the officer's tail lights glowed, she hissed something to her driver. The car slid into the road, swallowed by Lagos night. Inside, Auntie Nkairu began to cry. Ngozi went to the kitchen and stood alone for a moment, palms flat on the counter, spine straight, breathing like a runner at the tape. Namdi exhaled for the first time in an hour. Maya closed the Bible with 2 careful hands and placed it on the table. The white mug sat beside it, empty. Stations smell the same, paper and old air and chairs that have heard more confessions than churches. Namdi's petition had included the chain of custody notes, the lab report, the footage, an affidavit from Ngozi, and a preliminary statement from Kelechi. It was enough to start. Chaik sat across from the investigating officer. Posture formal, answers clipped. Do you recognize this kitchen? The officer asked, tapping the screenshot. Yes. Do you recognize yourself? Yes. What are you adding to the cup? A supplement. What kind of supplement? A health one. Name. Silence. In the waiting area, Maya stared at a poster about domestic harm that she had designed 3 years ago for a community clinic. The irony did not amuse her. Kelechi sat 2 seats away, elbows on knees, whisper praying into his hands. Ngozi gave her statement calmly, words careful, respectful. She said sir and ma and I saw what I saw. The officer's pen didn't stop moving. By noon, a magistrate had read the file and signed a short remand. The officers did their work without drama. Lagos hummed outside as if nothing seismic had shifted. As Chaik stood to go, he turned his head, searching the corridor. He found Maya at last, her scarf simple, her expression not victorious, not destroyed, just present. He opened his mouth. No words arrived. He closed it again and walked on. Amora didn't show. She called Kelechi once, number unknown. Tell your sister-in-law that Lagos has a short memory, she said with a smile you could hear. Tell her morning always comes back. Then let it come, Kelechi replied, surprising himself. This time we'll be awake. He ended the call and blocked the number. When he looked up, Maya was watching him. He shrugged, a little shy. Learning. Keep learning, she said, and managed a small smile. The white mug left the house that afternoon in a brown evidence box, its gold rim catching a last sliver of Ikoyi sun. Ngozi watched it go with an exhale that sounded like amen. That evening, the house was very quiet. In that quiet, grief finally got a chair. Maya let it sit. She cried, not because she wished for the old days, but because endings weigh something on the body. Namdi came by with pepper soup and silence. They sat together, not naming anything love couldn't bear yet, just breathing in the same room. Before bed, Maya opened the Bible to Psalm 27 and traced the words with a finger that no longer trembled. Whom shall I fear? Only the truth, she said to the empty room. And we are on the same side now. Months passed the way cities do, noisily for everyone else, quietly for the person rebuilding. Court dates. Statements. More tests. Lawyers who speak in paragraphs and judges who speak in sentences. Through it all, Maya learned a new ritual. She woke before sunrise, filled a clear glass with water, and stood at the window while the light came. She drank, slow. She said, I will not die confused. She meant it in every tense, past, present, future. At the foundation, she unveiled the Morning Project. Free toxicology screenings for women who suspect harm, legal clinics for coercive control cases, a small emergency fund for safe exits. Ngozi became the program's operations lead, uniform neat, voice steady, a clipboard general. On the first day, 20 women showed up. By the end of the month, 50. They told stories in small rooms with big open windows, and the rooms learned to hold them. Kelechi started volunteering at the project's financial literacy classes. He learned spreadsheets with the fervor of a convert and stopped treating money like adrenaline. Sometimes he cried in the parking lot after a session. Sometimes he laughed on the way in. Always, he came back. Namdi kept showing up, with medical reports, with stubborn care, with the kind of patience that sits in the corner and waits for you to be ready. They didn't rush anything. They let ordinary days add up, a shared plant-in at lunch, a ride to a community talk when her car refused to start, an evening walk after rain. Love, if it came, would arrive the way dawn does. Quietly, confidently, without banging on the door. On a Saturday, Maya boxed the things the house no longer needed. The cracked plate she had once adored, shirts that remembered a different tenderness. She lifted the white mug from the evidence return bag, now released back to her with a stamped form, and held it in both hands. She could have smashed it. It would have been satisfying. Instead, she wrapped it in brown paper and took it to the foundation. In the foyer, a small glass case stood ready. Inside it, on a plain wooden plinth, the mug sat with a card that read, "The cup that taught us to listen. We collect what nearly killed us and turn it into warning lights for others." Visitors stopped. They read. They touched the glass. They told the truth a little sooner. On the first anniversary of the day the house woke up, Maya hosted a forum titled "What We Refuse to Drink." Women from different cities spoke. A man stood at the back and wept quietly, then signed up to fund a clinic in Ajagun. The hall smelled of ginger and hope. That night, as the compound settled and the jacaranda whispered, Maya sat on the balcony with a notebook. She didn't write a confession this time. She wrote a beginning. "My name is Maya. I believed a man and almost lost my life. Then I believed myself and found it again. If you are reading this in a dark kitchen, know this, you are not crazy. The routine is not your cage. The morning will come back, and when it does, you will be ready to meet it with both hands open." She closed the notebook, looked up, and saw the city she loved, messy, relentless, alive. Somewhere in that city, Amora still moved through rooms like a rumor in expensive perfume. Somewhere else, Chaik learned how small a square man can sit in and still fill it with regret. These truths belonged to them. Maya's belonged to her. She raised her clear glass of water to the jacaranda, to Ngozi's quiet courage, to Namdi's stubborn presence, to Kelechi's shaky bravery, to every woman who ever turned a cup away and decided to live. "Another day," she said, and the word no longer sounded like survival. It sounded like a plan. The end.